A few years back, I was in my first year of GCSEs. I was having trouble focusing and completing tasks. My teachers weren't helpful. They singled me out in class and made me feel incompetent. A few months later, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And since then, I've learned what it means to have ADHD and how I can use it to my advantage instead of it be my biggest obstacle. Now, if you don't know what ADHD stands for, it means Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. This name is incredibly misleading. There are many reasons why people think that people with ADHD can't focus, but the biggest is the attention deficit part of the name. If you look up what should ADHD be called, you'll see VAST, Variable Attention Stimulus Trait. Now, I think that's a way better name for ADHD than ADHD. Did you know that every person with ADHD has at least one defective gene that makes it difficult for neurons to respond to dopamine? Dopamine is the neurotransmitter responsible for feelings of pleasure and regulating attention. So when our brains find something that we enjoy, it hyper-focuses on it until either someone snaps us out of it, or we've been doing it for so long that our bodies can't really handle much more. It's like our brains are so fixated on this one thing, it decides to ignore all our bodily necessities like food, water, and the need to use the bathroom. ADHD is different for everyone, especially if you have other mental disorders. Because I also have depression and anxiety, I've always described mine as reverse bipolar disorder. Instead of having manic phases, I have extreme depressive phases. I actually thought I was bipolar for a while because I would go through periods of time where I felt great. I felt so productive and I felt stable. But my psychiatrist told me that that's how everyone else feels every day. Sure, I was happy to know that I did not have bipolar disorder, but I was also extremely disappointed to find out how depressed I actually was. You see, ADHD, depression, and anxiety fit together like a really disappointing puzzle. It's not disappointing because it doesn't look nice, because it does. All the pieces fit really snugly together. It's disappointing because they work really well together. Now, before I start talking about how you can use ADHD to your advantage, here are some statistics. People with ADHD are 500% more likely to become entrepreneurs. 5% of adults have ADHD, which makes it so much cooler that 29% of adults have it. And why? Because we are more resilient than others. We are more prone to negative feedback, which then creates rejection-sensitive dysphoria. Rejection-sensitive dysphoria, it makes us think that we're always going to be told no. And because of this, we are extremely good at debate and convincing. Even if the situation doesn't call for it, we prepare. For example, when I wanted a dog, my parents were extremely against it. But they said, if you can give us a good case, we'll think about it. And then after plenty of research, I did. 3 days later, we had a puppy in the house. Now, before I start talking about how you can use hyperfocusing, I want to talk about the ADHD symptoms. Any ADHD symptom you get you can get its opposite and call that a symptom as well. It's really weird. We have the ability to hyper-focus on things that we like, but we also have trouble focusing on things that we're not necessarily interested in or find necessary. We procrastinate a lot, but we also can get things done extremely quickly. We have really high energy levels, but we also have extremely low energy levels. We're known for being spontaneous, but we also get in the habit of overthinking. Now, have you noticed a pattern? These symptoms can be quite helpful when we have higher dopamine levels, but can be quite challenging for us when we have lower dopamine levels. Now, earlier I mentioned how hyperfocusing can make us forget to eat, drink, and use the bathroom. This is very true. So let's discuss what hyperfocusing really is and how we use it. Hyperfocusing is the ability to focus on something to such an extent that we become almost absorbed by it. We can basically tune everything else out, so we focus on that and only that. I mean, in recent months, I've gone through sewing, crocheting, knitting, reading, sketching, gaming, and then repeat. The best way to use your ability to hyperfocus is to find out what your triggers are. And by triggers, I mean what starts your hyperfocus and what contributes to it. Look at your environment, your mentality, what your interests are. Whatever will help you hyperfocus, use it. The best way to start something that you're not necessarily interested in is to just start it. Even if you don't like it. You will say thank you to yourself later on. Now, have any of you ever been called lazy? Because I have, and it sucks. It was one of the worst insults I could ever get when I was younger. Because I knew I wasn't lazy, but I also knew I had so much trouble focusing and completing tasks. Typical everyday things like loading and unloading the dishwasher and even tidying up my room may be easy to you, but they are extremely hard for me. It's very easy to see ADHD as laziness, but we are not lazy. We just need a better support system. And if you're getting overwhelmed extremely quickly, just take a break. But not one of those, I'm going to sit down and watch some TV or I'm going to take a nap breaks. I'm talking about moving breaks. When you're stressed, just go for a walk. Don't sit down, because as soon as you do, your motivation will plummet. You will stay there. Seriously, it's really strange how helpful a 10-minute walk can actually be. There are so many other things that I could tell you that would help with ADHD, but maybe 50% of them would work for you because all of our brains are extremely different. So you need to find out what works for you and stick to it. And to those of you wondering how to support someone with ADHD, whether you're a teacher, a parent, or a friend, the simple answer is to just ask them and be patient with them. Because I guarantee if you ask them what you can do to help them, they will feel 100 times lighter. You just need to make sure that you ask them when they're not in the middle of a freak out. Now, I think it's important that students and teachers know that ADHD is not a disorder, and when treated properly, it can be nourished and it can help people excel in school, work, and in life. Let's stop seeing this as a limitation, but rather a unique superpower. Thank you.